It is our fourth pod of the week. Every week, Monday through Thursday, barring something else, we go through four different sections of the Big 12. The North, the South, the Bowlsby pod, and then this one here, which is the Four Corners. And that is, of course, the teams that have come in this particular year: Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and Arizona State. Let's start with Dion and Colorado. The Buffaloes are 5-2 overall, a win away from being bowl eligible, and a lot of people would have lost money that would have said no, they weren't going to get bowl eligible. I'm just saying there was a big chunk. They're 5-2. Paul Catalina, they're playing pretty well.
Yeah, they are, and especially after that Nebraska game where they got gutted. I mean, they were literally gutted in that game, and they've responded with vigor after that. This week, Cincinnati, who's been playing well, I think there's going to be some points scored in this game, but I think Colorado's just better in that they're doing things the right way. They've gotten better on defense, and they've gotten better enough on defense where their defense is consistent and is good and it gets stops, and they don't have to get in these wild shootouts all the time. So because of that, I think Colorado wins the game against Cincinnati, although I do think Cincinnati will get a couple haymakers in there or something. But for the most part, what they're doing has been really, really good at Colorado outside of their complete lack of ability to run the football.
Colorado's playing really well. They had a couple, turnovers that you want to clean up, but beyond that, there was nothing that Arizona was doing that made that game much more than just a pretty simple, easy business trip. That was all Colorado. Arizona we'll get to in a moment, but they crushed them, and I didn't think that was going to be some great game, but I was curious of how Colorado's defense would play against Arizona's, two weapons in particular, and they shut them down. I mean, Fafita McMillan didn't do anything of real substance here, so it was an ugly loss for Zona. It was a nice win for Colorado, and now you're one win away from bowl eligibility. I think that I lean their way in terms of this Cincinnati matchup, but I'm very interested to see the Texas high school quarterback duel between Shador and Brennan Sorsby, a couple players who have had big years and come from the state of Texas. So interesting to watch them go back and forth, but I'd lean Colorado here. And I think this is going to be kind of a measuring stick to see just sort of where Cincinnati is in terms of they're 5-2, but I don't know that people are really latching on to them. But if you go beat Colorado, then I think you won't have a choice but not to. But I do think Colorado wins at home. It's another late night game. You figure that probably plays into their favor a little bit, but they're just slight favorites here. So I guess Vegas is anticipating a close one as well. But I still go Colorado, and I think they're in a good spot. And I think Travis Hunter's getting healthier, which is a good sign as well.
Kick off at 9:15. I have enjoyed those late night. Now last week I got tired, man. I did. I couldn't watch the end of the day, but 9:15 the kickoff on ESPN. Now, let's go to Utah. I think Arizona State probably should be next, but we're going to go to Utah at Houston coming up Saturday. It's an ESPN Plus game, a 6 o'clock kick.
Try to come up with a worse football game to watch than Houston, Utah, based on what we've seen from both of them at this point. I don't mean like these teams aren't worth – I mean like from somebody tuning in to like want to watch – is this the worst Big 12 matchup you could put together on paper?
Yeah, I think so.
For like just a pure football enjoyment.
Like this week?
Because even
in general.
Well, it could have been a Baylor-Houston game later in the year.
You think Baylor-Houston would be worse than Utah?
No, I know, because I think Baylor can score.
Yeah,
Utah can't score. Yeah. And Houston, I guess we'll see depending on whatever game, how it goes. But Utah's defense is still pretty good. They only gave up 10 points last week. So I would assume this is very low scoring. Very drab game. And if you look at all the other games in the Big 12, just with the matchups, there's not one I could see that would be like this. This has the risk to be another 10-7 game again. Back-to-back weeks.
13-7, actually.
13-7, sorry. 13-7 game again for Utah.
Yeah, I don't have high hopes for this one. Like I said, I think it's the ugliest football matchup on paper that you could put together if you had your share of two teams from the Big 12 because, Baylor went and hung 59 points last week. So, give me them over 7-point Utah. who wasn't playing a giant on defense. They were playing TCU. So that was a bad look, again, for the offense. Isaac Wilson's very much a freshman, still turning the ball over, still completing like half his passes. There's just not a lot to like there. And then the running game even wasn't able to scrounge together much at all. So it was a lot of bad on that side of the ball, and I don't really know how much that changes outside of just Keithy or Money Parks or whoever just like taking over a game somehow or another and, putting together some massive performance. Outside of that randomly happening, there's just not a lot to love about Utah's offense. Defensively, they're still, solid, but they are a team that's fallen hard and fast, and it's amounted to a lot of crow for some of their fans online that I'm sure is not very tasty, because there's a lot of talk about how they were going to come run the Big 12. And I have seen this cute little thing that some Utah fans are doing to try and spin this of, before these losses, those weren't real Big 12 teams. Those were two former Pac-12 teams. And then they lose to TCU, and it's like, well, that's not really a real Big 12 team, I guess, either. And now Houston, that's an American. Then they play BYU. Oh, that's an American or an independent. Then they play Colorado. So Iowa State, in like 5 weeks from now, kick their ass, okay?
Yeah.
So that they don't have any more of these very obviously tongue-in-cheek, although for some you wonder, that's not really the real Big 12 as they continue to try to cope with the downslide of this season. I don't hate Utah the way it probably sounds, and I definitely don't try to poke on them the way it's very easy to do online now, but they did ask for a lot of that in the lead up to this season. So, yeah, things aren't going well. We know that Kyle Whittingham's trying to navigate as best he can, but this game is ugly, UGLY on paper. So we'll see. Utah should win this game. If they don't, then my gosh, like that's reaching a level of low that even with the injury to Cam Rising, you would never have suspected them dropping 4 straight potentially and losing to a team like Houston.
Utah fans are not delusional. They've had a nice run. But this year that run ended, and they're going through what happens in football, and they've taken advantage of teams when they had their nice run that had probably had injuries along the way. I respect the hell out of Coach Whittingham. I love the guy and how he coaches, but this year they have been average at best, period, no matter who the quarterback is or not. So whoever they lose to, the bottom line, it's a conference loss, even if they used to be from, my God, the Southwest Conference. All right, so there's Utah. We've done Colorado, and now the 2 schools in Arizona, including one that has been a fun story this year in Arizona State, Kenny Dillingham, and they're off this week.
Yeah, they're off this week, which is good. So that's another week for Sam Levitt to get healthy. Hopefully that happens sooner rather than later for them, so that the Jeff Sims experience can be on the bench where it belongs, where they belong, love Kenny Dillingham's story, but since they're not playing anybody this week, I don't really have much more to say about that.
I got plenty. I mean, he had to come out and apologize this week for singling out his kicker, who missed 2 field goals down the stretch that would have made it a 1-score game. Wouldn't have tied it, wouldn't have taken the lead, but would have at least made it to where they were within a touchdown. And 2 times in the final 9 minutes when they had that opportunity to make it a 1-score game, they missed both kicks. And as a result, he comes out afterwards and basically begs for kicking tryouts and throws his kicking unit under the bus, well, in particular, one guy, in Ian Hershey, without saying his name. Said they want open tryouts, and if you're a student on campus, give them a ring and all that, and there's some that actually did. There's a whole write-up I read the other day on a kid who has been waiting for a phone call, or not a phone call, but waiting for an opportunity, has been, practicing kicking, and has been hoping to get a tryout chance. I'm not sure what that story amounted to, because Kenny Dillingham came out and apologized for what he said, and said he shouldn't have focused and locked in on a singular unit, or in this case, really a player.
Yeah.
Because the player missed the 2 field goals. So he apologized for that. I think that's a young coach, and just a coach in general. Heat of the moment, you say something, and then you realize afterwards, damn, that was probably a little bit too harsh. It was humorous at the time for everybody not named Ian Hershey or on that kicking team, but that hurt him somewhat. Not having Sam Levitt hurt him worse. Cincinnati, that that was a game that Cincinnati got out big early, and still it remained a close enough game for Arizona State to feel like they had a chance. But I don't think anybody was really under the illusion that they were going to go win that after the Levitt injury. So the result was the same. The kicking story, though, made that more of a headline loss than it otherwise would have been. But they're still sitting pretty at 5-2. They get to go lick their wounds. And with this being the second bye week, they'll play 5 straight games when they come back. And we'll see if they're able to get that one more win, and we'll see if Sam Levitt's able to come back. But when they return, they'll be – and this is what's interesting, at Oklahoma State. So maybe that's win number 6. UCF at home, that's a possibility. At K-State, BYU at home, at Arizona. So you would figure that a couple of those are dicey, but there's enough there to get win number 6, and anything other than that would be awfully disappointing given how they started.
I agree. And I just like that they have been a fun story. That doesn't mean that they're satisfied, but they have been a really fun story. And you're right, Dillingham learned from that, although, he was being honest about the kicking game. It sucked. Cost him the game, perhaps. Arizona is at home against West Virginia. The Mountaineers, of course, are in a mess of a thing, and Arizona's not much better. It's going to be a 5 o'clock kick on FS1, and Arizona, of course, coming off what was just a very bad performance and got thumped by Colorado.
Yeah, both of them need a win in the worst way this week. They really do. On Arizona's end, I mean, I don't even know, what to think about this game and who can win it because they've both not been playing very well lately. So, let's put on the helmets and run into each other and see who's standing at the end. That's the only thing I can say about it because
you're so violent.
It's true. So yeah, I mean, but it's just how you have to. It's just how I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, Arizona tried to gamble with the onside kick there early, and Colorado made them pay, and that was kind of a sign of if you convert that, then maybe you start the drums beating for an upset bid. But Colorado negated that right away, and this just wasn't all that interesting or particularly a close game. Arizona hung around for a little while. They just are so injury-riddled in some cases, but also just the whole Fafita-McMillan story of how good those guys are and can be, but how up and down their performances have been this season, and that was certainly the case against Colorado. I mean, there's Noah Fafita, a pick and a touchdown, but threw for less than 150 yards, was throwing for less than 4 yards per attempt. Just not good. And then, McMillan had a very quiet game, 38 yards, no scores. So Colorado shut down the biggest pieces of that Arizona offense, and that Arizona vibe right now with first-year head coach Brent Brennan isn't great. You've lost 3 straight. You've lost 4 out of your last 5. You don't seem to have a lot of answers. You don't have health on your side either, and yeah, it's just not a good look, and I don't know what to expect this weekend. That's 2 teams that are limping into this thing. I would lean West Virginia, but they're not feeling so hot either, so I don't know. But both teams desperately need this win, and Arizona just trying to snap out of this funk and give themselves some hopes for a postseason, but it's getting harder to see, especially if they lose this weekend.
Yeah, they had high hopes, of course, with the transition and much more, and they have been a disappointment.